It's the toughest youth prison in the world, and although it's hardly different from a real prison, even children are incarcerated here. We are talking about the Wabash Valley Correctional Facility in the American state of Indiana. In addition to a few adult offenders, the maximum security prison mainly houses 40 juveniles due to their serious crimes. Together with adult offenders and some dangerous gang members, they have to serve prison sentences of up to 65 years. We show you the difficulties they have to deal with and the punishments they face for misconduct. But we will also present what hopes they have for their future and how they still manage their everyday lives in a positive way. So it continues to be exciting here at Wonderlane. Let's start our video by first explaining what the Wabash Valley Correctional Facility actually is exactly. The prison was built in 1992 and is located in Indiana. The prison meets the highest security standards as it houses over 2,000 of the most serious criminals in the US. They are sealed off from the outside world by a 4.6 meter high fence, and barbed wire and an electric fence are designed to prevent escape attempts. This is also ensured by the 6 guard towers and more than 750 employees. At first glance, Wabash looks like any other prison, but as mentioned above, not only adult criminals serve their sentences here. Instead, the so-called Block D houses over 40 teenagers and even children who have committed such serious crimes that they have been sentenced to adult criminal law in the USA. They're housed here until the age of 18, when they are transferred to the normal penal system. In concrete terms, this means that they are locked up their cells for up to 18 hours a day. This is exactly where a normal day begins for the young people, relatively early. They are woken up by the guards at 6 a.m. and then have to line up in front of their cells. They usually have to share the cell, which is about 10 square meters in size, in pairs, and the inmates do not have any amenities or luxuries. They even have to earn their own television by behaving well. Things like PCs or video games, for example, do not exist at all for the young people in Wabash. Instead, their daily routine is characterized by discipline and drill. After the youths line up in front of their cells, guards come by to do a head count of the inmates. Once this process has been completed, it's straight on to the next point of the day, breakfast. This, like all other activities, takes place in the large common room of the block, which is located in the center of the building. After breakfast, the inmates begin something that you wouldn't expect to find in a prison. All the underage inmates go to school. The prison administration wants to give the young people the chance to catch up on their high school graduation. This is part of their rehabilitation program, because even if some of them have to stay in prison for up to 65 years, they should have the chance to lead a normal life after their release, for which a high school diploma is extremely important. But while most teenagers their age are taught together at the high school and hang out there with their friends, the youths in Wabash are taught in the common room of the block. There, they get lessons in math, language arts, and science. Unlike a normal high school, any infractions, such as talking to other inmates during class, are punished extremely harshly here. If an inmate even once stands out negatively, he is immediately sent to his cell and suspended from class for a period of time. In fact, some teachers have stated in interviews that their classes in prison are very well received by the inmates, and everyone has a great interest in continuing their education. According to one teacher, it almost never happens that someone disturbs the lessons. For many, the lessons are the highlight of the day. By the way, while the teenagers are sitting in class, at the same time, around 9 a.m. one day a month, the new inmates arrive. They are brought to the prison in armored vehicles and wear hand and ankle cuffs so they cannot attempt to escape. The team's procedures are routine, as about 50 new inmates arrive at the prison each year, and often it's not the first time for the teens. For many inmates, like 17-year-old Jacob Eldridge, who violated parole, it's their second stay at the Wabash Valley Jail. In general, teens like Jacob are no exception. In 2019, 48,000 teens were incarcerated in the United States, most of them in detention centers similar to Wabash. Although here, only children over the age of 12 are imprisoned, with a minimum sentence of 2 years, children as young as 9 have been jailed for a few days in the US, for things like skipping school or not wearing a seatbelt in the car. The USA thus holds the top position among all Western industrialized nations. For Jacob and 16-year-old Aaron McCain, who was sentenced to 10 years in prison for robbery, it's now on to Cell Block D. There, they are greeted not only by fellow inmates, but also by Corrections Officer Morrissey. The former officer is in charge of the block, and all the teenagers listen to his word. The consequences of defying him, he says himself, are something you never want to know. But not everyone is as tough as Morrissey. In the cell block, for example, there are also good souls, such as social worker Aletta Burnett, who cares for and counsels the teenagers. Inmates can come to her with any questions, and she discusses with them how to make the most of their time in prison, or what the options are for early release. For some inmates, she is almost like a mother, which is why she is nicknamed Mommy. At noon, there is a break for the inmates, during which everyone usually goes to the common room and eats the respective lunch dish. The food is kept very simple, and only on holidays the teens get a special meal, like grilled chicken, fresh salad, or dessert. For all other amenities or sweets, the teens have to work long hours and save up their pocket money. Like 18-year-old Blake Lehman, who recently celebrated his birthday in prison. While other young people his age throw a big party, Blake has saved up his pocket money to make his own little birthday cake with a few cookies and sweets. He shares it with his fellow inmates. As he says himself, this was the greatest luxury he was able to enjoy recently. Blake will have to celebrate many more birthdays like this, because the teenager has a human life on his conscience, and was sentenced to 54 years in prison at the age of 16.
It was bad. It was real bad. Yeah, I definitely regret that day. I regret a lot of everything about it.
After lunch, some teenagers go about their work cleaning the halls or helping out in the kitchen. But they are also expected to come to terms with their deeds and acquire knowledge about the legal system in the prison library, for example. They hope to discover loopholes and perhaps still be released early. They are helped in this by inmates from the adult wing who are employed there as mentors. The young people have 1 hour of free time in the morning and 1 hour in the evening, which they can use freely within the facility. After they return to their cells, they are locked up for the rest of the day. They are only allowed to leave their cells again for dinner. But in addition to the admittedly very limited access to knowledge and the scarce free time, everyday life in Wabash is anything but easy. The young people themselves often come from a home where they had to deal with violent arguments on a daily basis. Even in prison, fisticuffs and arguments among the inmates are a regular occurrence. The guards have a zero-tolerance limit and punish such outrages severely. Even minor offenses result in the deprivation of privileges, such as their own television. In case of fisticuffs, they even face 3 months of solitary confinement or direct transfer to the adult offenders wing. That's it for our video. Write us in the comments what you think of the prison and its measures. We're curious. Otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to Wonderlane for more. Until next time, here at Wonderlane.